Hello, hello everyone. It's a Thoth Thursday, and I wanted to share another thing that I do with the deck personally, I guess you could say. I'm going to take a couple, like a small break on the Gnosis portion of Thoth Thursdays and share just a few things that I do with the deck on a personal level. And today I wanted to touch on an example of some spell work that I do. I'm not going to get too personal with this, but I just wanted to give kind of an example of what I have done in the past and what I will do in the future with the deck. And it's so nice out here. We've got a fire going in the house. I think that it's about 40 degrees Fahrenheit here. It's like the first real chilly day we've had here in Georgia, and it's just something about winter, man. Something about winter. Winter's deep in my soul, and this time of year when I can feel the winter come about, it's like my soul is waking up. Oh, and you know it's chilly if I got a sweater on. Okay, you know it's chilly. Still barefoot. I'll be barefoot I'll be barefoot till February. But anyways, so I talked on in another video, I talked about my enchanter's wheel that I made. It's this vine wreath thing that I make, that I made when the Forest of Enchantment Tarot came out. The Wheel of Fortune card in that tarot is called the Enchanter's Wheel, and it's like this vine wreath that was, witch made and has bits and bobs on it, and I touched on it in a video. I'll leave it up in the cards for you if you want to check that out. I think it was my favorite tarot cards or something, and I realized I'd never shown it on my channel before, so I'm going to show this like to preface the whole video. So this is what it looks like. So beautiful. Now I have been making vine work almost my entire life. The grandparent figures that I had was an elderly couple that lived next to us when I was a child, and they had muscadine vines. If you don't know what they are, they're like in the family of grapes, and they had muscadine vines that would grow in the yard, and they were sacred to me. The arbors that these sacred plant vines would grow on were sacred to me. The summer would be heady with the scent of muscadines, the squished muscadines, the buzz of the bees trying to get that last bit of nectar from them. And I would climb in there with my sister in these arbors, and it would be like dark in there, and we would just eat the muscadines right off the vine, don't even wash them. I mean, I had a gritty childhood, and it fills the vines. Like in August would be when you harvest the muscadines, and then by this time of year, October, November, would be when all the vines kind of dry up and you can make wreaths out of them for Christmas wreaths. That's what we tend to do every year. And so I've been doing vine work my whole life, so it's kind of like second nature. So I made this to kind of like look like a replica of the Enchanter's Wheel, and what I ended up doing was putting my own bits and bobs, like a key, this like wishing ribbon. This wishing ribbon has a cool story. It was just a piece of like remnant fabric that I had laying around the house on the floor, and every time I would vacuum or sweep, it never would get swept up. So I found that to be important somehow. So I put it on here. Keys, charms from charm bracelets that I had, and then on the sabots and espets I put rosemary around it and hang it and it stays on my front door as a way to keep my magic flowing in terms of home protection. It's a spell I did for home protection, and it's really worked. Now on Samhain this year, I was sitting out here in this very spot, and I was kind of meditating. I was just kind of zoning out, drinking my coffee, and I noticed I have some bamboo growing in my yard, and I noticed that one bamboo shoot was falling all over the place. So I went out there to put it back in its place, and I saw a vine growing, and I was like, oh. Now I felt this vine had a very masculine energy, spirit, whatever in it. So I threw some pipe tobacco out there and snipped all the little viney stuff out, and I came back to this spot, and I started weaving this vine into certain, into these weird shapes, and it ended up being a star, the shape. So it ended up I made this wreath with a star in the middle, and it became a pentacle. And then because I found the vine through the bamboo, I took a small shoot of bamboo and did a star to just hang off of this wreath, this magic wreath. And so I'm going to show you what that looks like. I promise we'll get to Thoth in a second. And then here's the bamboo star. Just hanging off there. But see this star? I hope you can see that. You see that I have twine? I love to use twine in my magical workings because I take the whole spool. You can buy the spool from like Walmart, department stores, wherever, for little and no money. And I cleanse them with sage. And sometimes I put essential oils on them for consecration, but I'll usually do that after I've used the string for something. And I love to use twine in my magical workings. It's just something that's sacred to me. Plus earthenware, I call it, like stuff that grows out into my yard. I use a lot of the things that are already in my yard because I feel like that's more me, you know, it's me because this is my homestead, you know. So in terms of Thoth and what I could do in terms of spell work, because I made this at Samhain, I was like, wow, okay. And I did put the twine to kind of hold the star, give it the shape a little bit. It's a vine, it's not straight, so I had to do what I had to do. But I noticed that when I put the strings on there, that stuff could be like my enchanter's wheel. Stuff could be cinched on there. And I could use this wreath in a spell, or in a continual spell, and into something that I could continually flow the magic in, like the enchanter's wheel. And I decided to use the Thoth with it. Now, what I have used the Thoth for so many spells, but this is just an example. I pull cards, so I shuffle and I pull a couple of cards, just going off intuition as to how many. I don't use a spread or anything. I'm just slinging some cards down, and then from the pictures, I'll just try to plug out my intuition as to what the wreath is trying to tell me needs to be on there. So I'll give you an example. I don't know if I'll be able to pull it right away, but I know that if you're familiar with the Thoth deck, you know what the Ace of Wands looks like. This fiery stick with yods all over it. So beautiful. And so say that'll come up, and that'll be one of the cards. I've got my charm box here, which is very, very beat up box of Minas Tirith from Lord of the Rings. City of Kings. I love it. It's so beat up, but this whole lid just comes off, and it kind of looks like a coaster, to be honest with you. But since I've gotten it, I've held charms, and I'll go through some of my charms. And I had this example with the Ace of Wands because I tend to have this medallion here, which is like, I guess it looks kind of like a fire torch, like from the Olympics, but it doesn't actually say anywhere on there. So I could put that charm on there. I have so many charms from childhood or from things I've collected through, like if I find something on the ground, you know, my kids find something, like this was a necklace from my childhood. I don't want to get rid of it because there's a reason that I have it, and I can't understand what's making me not throw it away, but there's that. So I have actual charms that I collect, you know, like I collect these, what do you call them? Bubblegum machine rings. I'm a ring person anyway. I mean, this fits on my pinky. I think my youngest got this for me. Oh, look at all the birds. Oh. Sorry, it's just like a flock of hawks went by. So like, oh. So anyway, I think he got this for me. It's just cheap, you know, whatever, but I use this in magical workings. It links me to my inner child, then it links me to my children, so it's kind of real well-rounded. And I must have worn a charm bracelet to a holiday party once, and I swear that became like the thing to get linen, even though I don't really wear them. Sacred crow. And this is one of my favorites. It's got like these hearts that look kind of like, you know, Mother Mary hearts, Knights Templar, crosses. There's this, if anyone's familiar with the Wheel of Fortune card in the Thoth, this looks like the fist. So it's pretty cool. It says, for humanitarian service, United States Armed Forces. Must be something you get at the Salvation Army here. Hearts. Stuff like that. So I'll pull them off of these charm bracelets and use them. small little keys, like keys are sacred to me. I collect them. And then beads, of course. I collect all kinds of weird beads. This is like a little froggy I've had my whole life, it seems like. You look so cute. So anyway, I collect these charms, and I'll use my intuition for what cards come up to see. Now, like I said, with the Ace of Wands, the torch with the fire comes out, and sometimes I'll go on, like especially if a major arcana comes out, I'll really try to embody that archetype and fill out what their sacred emblem or sacred symbolism would be on my wheel, and that has helped tremendously. And then sometimes a piece of my art, because art is sacred to me. It's like my favorite hobby. I do it all the time. There's a way that I do this that I can preserve my art in one of these spell workings, and I'll give an example. My child had done a portrait of me with pen, and then used contact paper. You can buy this anywhere. I think that you're supposed to line shelves with this shit, but I've used it pretty much my whole life as laminate. And so my child did that for me. He did this little bitty self-portrait of me in my bun, my iconic bun, and put it on yarn, and I love it. I love it so much. He did this like when he was 7. So this is a way that I could use paper or any kind of medium I want to make my art, and then laminate it, punch a hole in it, you know, and then adhere it to my wreath. And so it could be art, it could be these charms. I don't really like to put a lot of charms on there. I only put a few, because I mean, otherwise I could never keep a collection. But then there's also things like earthenware, like I said before, that I use. These are some dried orange slices that, as you can see, they're so dry. They you know, you can pull string into them. And then of course feathers. I have a whole bunch of these feathers that we find out in the yard and we find on our walks and things, and feathers are so sacred to the witch, isn't it? And so, or in magic, I don't want to call us all witches. It's okay if you're not. But we find these, and me and my family collect all kinds of feathers, and I can adhere them to the wreath. And then that could be that I got a sword, right? A sword air suit. So that's kind of how I can play on the sword suit. I've done this before. I used to love the idea of making a wind chime. As you can hear, I love them. I'm an air witch. I'm an air sign. I'm an air witch. I'm a wind witch. I'm a storm witch. All of it. I'm there. And so I loved the idea always of having a silverware wind chime. And so sometimes I'll use cutlery in some of these sculpture things that I make. So I may hang a butter knife on there, and that could represent the Ace of Swords, something like that. But I could actually use the actual elements. I know that for one spell working I did with the Thoth, a cup card came up, and because the cup suit in the Thoth is so like you can really get some shit with the cups. Like, I mean, look, like there's just so much water symbolism in the cup suit, right? If a cup suit comes up, then I may sprinkle these wreaths with my moon water or my storm water, and that could be a way that I have consecrated it using the element of the card. And I could run it, the whole thing, over a flame, or through incense smoke, or it's already got so much earth into it, being a vine, that I could either hang it outside in like my bamboo forest out there as a way to get it like more earth centered, I guess you could say. If those cards come up, look at what is present in the cards that you've pulled, and then I also look at what's not present. So if I don't see any sword suits, I know that this enchanter's wheel may need some more mental focus, more air centered focus, and I can play on that a little and look at what is most present in the cards that I pull. Maybe there's more major arcana than anything else. Then I'll really focus on those archetypes and put the focus there. So there's a lot that I do with the deck. I know I'm not showing you a lot of cards. I just wanted to, give a little bit about what I have done And what I will do with this Samhain wreath, I just feel like this particular one that I've made was so earth-centered in general that I don't really want to put any more earth onto it. So there's just some things that come out into my intuition that are at play, and I feel like this wheel has a big purpose. I don't know if it's home magic. It feels kind of home magic-y, but it could have like a branch off of home magic, like a mama bear magic. I like to do things with my mama bear to keep her fierce, if you know what I'm saying, okay? Because she's always there. Us mamas, we know the mama bear is in here, okay? She doesn't go anywhere. But I like to keep her fierce because you never fucking know, okay? My kids are still, you know, still needing to be taken care of. They're not taking care of themselves, and they still need to be protected and shielded from some things, especially now that they're both, you know, turning the corner almost into puberty. It's like, oh. And I like to keep my mama bear fierce, and there's some spell work that I do for self that helps her to stay right here under the skin. And if you look close enough, you can see the mama bear really, really fierce right here. Yeah, I'm just saying. I just, because you never fucking know, right? And you never, like, I want her to be so fierce that at the blink of an eye, she's ready to come out and rip throats out. Well, we protect our babies. We protect them. And it's just about me not allowing that energy to get too, you know, because it's like when all the shape-shifting stories that you've heard of or read or whatever, they all say that, you know, it's about balancing out the animal within, okay? You can't let the human overtake you too much, and you can't let the animal overtake you too much. There has to be a balance. You have to allow the animal to come and do their primal things, you know, that there's urges that the animal inside you has, right? We all have it, okay? Primal urges. And it's about locking in and knowing that about yourself and doing the self-awareness work and stuff that keeps that fierce within you. And so I do that. So that's a big ramble about literally one example that I have done with the Thoth Tarot in terms of spell work. There's so much more that I do. This deck is a spell work deck, to be honest with you. There's definitely some high magic potential with this deck, although I don't do high magic. I have done it before, but it's not really my thing. So there's a lot of potential with high magic in this deck. Every spell that I've done with this deck has been potent AF when I work with this deck. I can feel the magic within. I can feel the cards doing what they're supposed to be doing. I can feel myself centering and being one with the earth and being one with self and soul, mind, body, spirit. When I do these spells, I'm so focused with this deck, and it just... I think that the main question that if I were watching this video, I would ask is, do you do anything to the deck before you do spell work? And the answer is yes and no. If I'm feeling it, then I may run it, you know, through some sage smoke. I tend to have incense or sage going anyway. As I said before, I'm a huge air witch, so there's smoke always happening, okay? I may say some sacred words, like some words of power. I love to do that. I don't do that all the time, but I may say some words of power or just set the fucking intention. Like, look, we're about to do some magic. Be 100 for me. Be 100 with me. And that could just be all it is. But then I may run it under some sage smoke or something. I don't know. But I don't have to. I really don't have to do anything to the deck. All I have to do is shuffle it, and that just tends to, you know, flutter out all that juju. I don't believe in bad juju. I don't believe in well, I do, but not in the deck. Does that make sense? Anyway. So, recap. I'm making this, I made this wheel. I'm going to use the Thoth Tarot with it. I may or may not run it through some smoke first to kind of get the deck into the mindset with me, get us both on the same page, so to speak, same card, and pull some cards at random, however, you know, much my intuition is telling me. Go off of the imagery itself of the card and plug out some things that I can put onto the enchanter's wheel, wreath, whatever magic wheel, to focus whatever the intention I set for this down. and then I'll hang it somewhere around the house, or where, you know, whatever goes with my intention, I guess. And so that's just an example that I wanted to share with you guys about what I have done. I have done this before, and I probably will. I'll use the Thoth for spell work until I die, probably. So I hope that this was informative. If you have any questions, I will answer them to the best of my knowledge. And please trust me when I say that we are going to continue to learn and dive deep with the Thoth. I just wanted to give a little bit more of a personal take with the deck, and give more of what I do actually with the deck on a personal level. And I hope that you enjoy that. So come back in a couple of Thursdays for some more Thoth love.